can go to bed.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of College Football UK. I, as ever, am your host, Fletch, and joining me today is Nick and Sam. How are we, gentlemen?
All good?
Good. Yeah, just my eyes are struggling to stay open, but we'll power through.
Right, well, there's not too much to talk about. I said that before, and that ended up probably being one of the longer episodes. But there isn't too much to talk about. There's a lot we can sink our teeth into, though. Before we start, couple of house bits as always. Um, This podcast is brought to you by the AAW Network. If you check the description of your episode, and if you're on YouTube, it's right down there because you can see what I'm doing. Right down there. Um, you can follow the network, follow all of our socials, and if you join our Discord, which would be amazing because there's so many of you that listen each week. If you join our Discord on Saturday, coming up, we're going to do another watch party. Whack the football on, join our little voice chat, and just talk football with us while we're watching it. It's going to be fun, is the word I'm going to use, and I'm hoping it's going to remain fun. With that being said, just a little bit of AAW cross pollination. I thought I'd give everybody a shout out. Hurdle the Line has just got a new sponsor over the last couple of weeks. That is NFL Fantasy Game Day, the first and only daily fantasy app for UK fans, based in the UK, made in the UK by the UK for the UK fans. If you want to play NFL Daily Fantasy and you aren't already on it, go download the app. Again, the link will be in the description, or it's just Fantasy Game Day on your app store. Sign up, use the code HRDLE when you get in, and you get you deposit play, you get a free play worth £7.50 after that, which is I don't know if you guys have played it before, but actually it's really fun. I
I
really
won
enjoyed it.
I won some money at the weekend using it.
You out.
It was only £8, but I won £8,
What was the stake on the game?
£5, so I won £3.
Profit.
Yeah,
Profit. See, profit.
I finished. Where did I finish? I'm going to see if I can find it now. I finished. No, that's not it. It's that one. I finished. That was the other one. Wasn't the £5 one? Is the £3 one? So £5 profit.
Okay.
And I finished out of 420 people. I finished 64th.
Fair play. Right.
Well done.
So, see, can win some money. Obviously, you've got to be over 18, not fall into that trap again. Over 18, adults only, no children allowed. And gamble responsibly when you do. When the fun stops, stop, as the old saying goes. With that in mind, we'll carry on. Because, well, look, if you do it, the whole network benefits at the end of the day. The whole network benefits. So, anyway, without further ado, let's just get straight into it. I think we have some news, don't we, Nick? Been a few things
We
happening
do.
this week.
Is that my turn now?
I believe so, yeah.
Okay. Um, Travis Hunter is now heavy favourite to win the Heisman Trophy. At minus 400, which if you're on this side of the pond, that's 1 to 4 on. So depending on how you do your bets, it's either minus 400, i.e. you've got to put 400 on to win $1, or 1 to 4 on in our language.
Didn't he just drop a video as well where it's him versus him?
Don't know. If he
They
has, I
they
haven't seen it.
they dropped. I don't know if it was Colorado or him personally. They dropped a video where it was him at cornerback defending him at wide receiver with
All right.
the image of Heisman afterwards with the I and the S replaced with a 1 and a 12. So he's pretty
Okay.
confident, or Colorado are pretty confident.
Well, it's
On,
like he last week or weekend just gone. That was the third game that he had both an interception and a touchdown.
Mm.
It's the guy's.
on
Yeah, he's
On that note, though,
Special.
did you see the catch he made on the weekend in like double coverage? That was
Is that the one where it came over his shoulder?
Yeah, it came over his shoulder in double coverage. He's in the air,
Yeah.
and he kind of got swept from underneath by one of the DBs and still managed to hang on to it while coming down. Absolutely brilliant. And I don't know if Dion was asked at the weekend, like, because one of the arguments for why Travis Hunter is not, people aren't happy with Travis Hunter for the Heisman is because he doesn't have a lot of tackles. And Dion came to his rescue to a certain extent and just said, well, if a cornerback has lots of tackles, that's a bad thing because it means they're catching balls on him. So a DB without lots of tackles means they aren't catching a lot of balls on him. So
Yeah.
lack of tackles might be a good thing.
Yeah, you can see what he's trying to say, can't you?
Yeah.
Shador Sanders staying with Colorado. Shador Sanders has accepted an invite to play in the Shrine Bowl. This year, the Shrine Bowl will be at AT&T Stadium, so hopefully the sun's not shining. Yeah.
No,
so
you're fine.
East versus West.
You're fine. Did you watch the fight on Friday night? They figured out how to use the curtains now.
Oh, have they?
Don't
Oh.
Yeah.
Don't open the roof, though. A piece of metal
Yeah, I
will
was gonna say,
fall
don't
off
open
the
the roof.
roof.
Yeah, you've got that.
Yeah. So,
Dallas
there's
really
quite
are
a few.
Dallas really are the Man United of the NFL world, aren't they?
Aye. No, they just need a
yeah.
flood and some rats.
Yeah. Every other week, there's 70,000 of them at Old Trafford.
Touche.
There's quite a few Colorado players that have accepted an invite to that game. So Will Shepherd and Horn and one other, I think. Something for you, Fletch. I don't know whether you're aware of this. Ivan Taylor, son of former NFL cornerback Ike Taylor, has jumped ship. He don't want to play for Michigan anymore.
Sadly aware.
The 4-star safety recruit has decided to go and play his college ball at Alabama. So,
however, Bryce Underwood's teammate from Bellevue, Elijah Dotson, 4-star DB, has flipped his commitment to Michigan at the same time, though. So that was today.
Isn't that where all the crazy people in Batman are, Bellevue?
No comment.
Okay.
No comment.
Fair enough. No worries.
It is in Michigan, though, I will say.
Coaching dismissals. Do you want to get onto that?
Go on then. Go with some coaching.
Okay. So, Wisconsin have fired their OC, Phil Longo. University of Massachusetts have fired head coach Don Brown. FAU have fired head coach Tom Herman. I think Ray Lewis has said no, or they've said they're not interested in Ray Lewis. I know that popped up in the media today.
Adam Schefter.
Charlotte have fired Biff Poggy. That's not Biff from Back to the Future. Just to clarify.
That is a great name, though. Biff Poggy.
Biff Poggy, yeah. Temple have fired head coach Stan Drayton. And not to be outdone by anybody, Nebraska have, and I will not say the word fired because they have used the word removed, their OC Marcus Scatterfield. Why they haven't used fired, I don't know, but they've removed him. And then Shane Gary's not here. FSU, Gary could get a job at FSU. They've got some openings. Their OC, their DC, and their wide receivers coach have all been dismissed. Alice Atkins, Adam Fuller, and Ron Duggan have all lost their job.
I feel for the wide receiver coach there because it's how can it be his fault? Is that, I feel
like it's like Fletch the other week when he was moaning about catching strays. The wide receiver coach has just caught some strays there. I think.
Exactly.
You're out as well.
It's not the wide receiver coach's fault that your quarterback cannot throw beyond the line of scrimmage. It's not his fault.
So, um, yeah, Gary, if you're listening and you can improve the FSU, then go for it.
Where do you think he is? He's been all this time. He's been off gallivanting in Florida trying to get jobs over there.
Possibly. I think he's. I look. I don't mean to, you know, pour more stress on Gary, but I still think he's bothered about that chocolate bar that he lost in Dublin
I
Airport. I think
I
that
wouldn't put
really
it
haunts
past
him.
him.
You know,
I think
Mm.
it does.
I really do.
Every time he looks at you two, he just thinks of that chocolate bar.
I tell you what. I tell you what. Right. If you do play daily fantasy and you want to join Fantasy Game Day and we get that little kickback, there's a couple of other ways you can kind of support the network in general. Um, like
Buy Gary a chocolate bar.
it will all go to getting Gary. No, we won't get him a chocolate bar. We'll get him a box of chocolates for Christmas.
Okay.
Well, it
And a
will go
voucher for
towards.
Burger King.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know about that
Uh,
one. We'll see. But yeah, it'll go to Gary's chocolate bar fund.
that's the end of my news. That's all I've got for you. So unless somebody's got something I've missed.
I've got a couple of things. Louisville caught halfback, no DB, sorry. Uh, Tayon Holloway has been suspended indefinitely following his arrest for first-degree strangulation and fourth-degree domestic violence assault. And the other bit, so that's sort of I suppose, the really bad news. The other bit is, and this might be something that I suppose both of you might be happy, or at very least Fletch will be happy about, is that the Ohio State Seth McLaughlin is probably going to be out for the season. Who's Ohio's one of their starting offensive linemen is out with an Achilles injury, which he got in practice on Tuesday.
What kind of sick bastard do you think I am to be delighted with an injury? Even an Ohio State injury, I'm not happy about it. Like it's not I'm not gonna lie, it's not devastated me. I'm not losing sleep over it, but I'm
Um,
not enjoying it.
and did you
And
mention about Jim McElwain? Sorry, I may not have been
I don't
paying
believe so.
attention.
No, I
So
missed that one.
Central Michigan football coach Jim McElwain is to retire after this season. It'll end a 40-year career that included head coaching stops at Florida and Colorado State. So he's as he said, my wife and Karen and I have cherished every moment of our football journey. So
He's reached the top now. He's got Western Michigan to be the best team in Michigan. You know, he's reached the top now. So they beat Central Michigan. So that's it. Top of the board now.
I sound like a cricket sound effect. But you also probably won't be wrong. That's the worst bit. Is you're probably not wrong realistically at the moment. But see, so we've got a couple of weeks to go until we're starting to see flips. But we've got a couple of weeks to go until signing, and that's probably what we're going to focus on. Maybe in the next couple of weeks is some of the signings and commits and things like that. But one main thing I think we need to focus on right now, just as a whole, is the college football playoffs. And normally we try and bring a couple of things for. I'll try and bring a couple of things forward, but I think we really playoffs that need to be front and center at the moment because we're on round 3, is it, of the playoff brackets now by the CFP?
yeah,
Pretty sure it's number 3.
Yeah.
There've been some, should we call them interesting results over the weekend that have thrown a few things in into I guess some positions into disrepute maybe. Obviously that loss to Northern Illinois just continues to look worse and worse and worse for you there. Nick,
So the other thing is, does it really? Because had we not lost that game, we'd be an extra. We might be above Indiana, which means we'd be number 7. I don't think we might be number 6. We might be above Penn State as well. But right now, right now we're going to face Alabama. If we were at number 7, we were going to face Ole Miss, and if we were at number 6, we were going to face Georgia right now. So
Right.
it's not like there's we were discussing before the start. There is a slightly easier side to the playoff tree, but unfortunately, I don't think Notre Dame can get onto that other side of the tree. They are stuck in the harder side of the tree. So it's, if it goes as it is at the moment, do you want to go through Alabama and through Oregon, or do you want to go through Ole Miss and Texas? Because that looks to be their run if
You
everything
don't want
stays the same.
you don't want to come through us. We're going to be too good.
Do I say that more convincingly?
Well, no. Until we beat Texas A&M next week, I will not be confident about us. We need to beat them.
Do you know what? Actually, on that note, what I got, I'm going to get the SEC table up here. Now I can't, for some reason, I can't just put SEC into Google at the moment on my computer because it just keeps telling me things that are UK based at SEC, and it takes me forever to find it. But there we go. There's an interesting potential for the end of the season with the SEC in that you could have about 6 teams tied with the same
Yeah,
record.
they were
Um,
saying that on College Game Day at the weekend.
yeah, so right now you've got at the top of the SEC, you've got Texas, who are 9-1 overall with a 5-1 record in the conference. Behind them are Texas A&M, who are 8-2 with a 5-1 record in the conference. Georgia, who are 8-2 with a 6-2 record in the conference. Tennessee 8-2 with a 5-2 record in the conference, and then behind them you've got Alabama and Ole Miss, who both have a 4-2 record in the conference. With
So we
what,
do want
2 weeks to go?
a Texas A&M win over Texas to just blow the doors right
No, no,
off.
no, no, no,
No, no,
Well,
no. Sorry.
no, no, no.
they're gonna go and blow the bloody doors off. That,
Um,
but that would make it a very interesting scenario. Very interesting scenario. Because how do you manage that? How if you have 6 teams with the same record and the same overall and same conference record, how do you manage that?
Well,
uh,
whoever creates it comes up with some weird and wonderful ways. I think Nick, you asked in the group how the SEC, or was it Egg maybe that asked in the chat that we have on Twitter, how the hell do the SEC playoffs work? Because no one really understands it.
it's
One,
one of those that you'd have, say, for example, Georgia. I mean, I don't know. I'm the way I look at it. Ole Miss beat Georgia, so they've got to be above Georgia. Georgia beat Tennessee, so they've got to be above Tennessee. If Texas A&M, argument's sake, beat Texas just for the conversation, they would have to be above Texas, but then Texas would have to be below Georgia. So you're almost talking like it would be what? Texas 1, Georgia 2, Texas A&M 3, Texas 4. It'd be crazy. And
or
you've got those points as well that come into it, and the game
yeah,
points and as
or
well.
do you turn round and just say, for the hell of it, why not? Texas A&M, Ole Miss, you both go for the conference championship. You won't get many chances to do it. You both just have a year, go for it.
Draw out of a hat.
Yeah, draw it out of a FA Cup style on the one show.
Yeah.
Mm.
Um, it's a very it just it. I'm really interested to see if that was the case, how they would actually justify it, because like you say, it's you. If you go logically, in about four different ways, it still doesn't make sense. And I don't think you come to an actual conclusion because, like you say, if you go off who beat who, then it's like playing Jenga and blocks just keep end up being back on top of the other blocks until, I don't know, you end up just with a weird clump of blocks that doesn't make any real sense as a shape.
So just
But
having a
Like
quick
playing
look on
Tetris.
yeah, like playing Tetris even. That's a much better one.
having a look at what they say on here on whatever this website is. I don't know what it even is. Um, they're saying that the likely. Why is it? No, ignore me. There's produced some nonsense website that I can't work, so ignore it.
I was doing anyway, so that Sam, don't worry. Um, the But if you go on to, so let's go back to the college football player. So the rankings as it stand, I believe, if I'm right, starting at the top. If I've got well, this is if I've got the right one up. The You got Oregon at number one still.
Yep.
Can we do we agree with Oregon at number one to start off with?
Yes. Yeah, they've been far and away the best team of the
Yeah,
season.
and they're still unbeaten. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Ohio State number two. Are we okay with that one? I'm not personally, but football wise, I get it.
yeah, I'd probably agree with it. I mean, I would have Texas there, but that's just me being biased.
I yeah, to be honest, I mean, I we had this conversation a couple of weeks, and I said, Sam, I thought Texas has been harshly done by when they lost one game and dropped like whatever it was, 6, 7.
Yeah.
Probably say Texas 2, Ohio State 3, if it was me
Right.
personally.
And
Who was it? Who was it? Ohio lost to this year?
Oregon by a point. That was the Will Howard slide game.
Yeah, that was it. Yeah. So realistically, the only team to have beaten Ohio are the team above them. Now, yeah, I get it. They've not been able to play us, but we have also lost to someone who's below us. So realistically, you would say they probably should be number two, and then us number
Yeah.
three. But in terms of who's been the better team and who's played better over the season, I would say it's us.
I would genuinely agree. There's a couple of those wins. Trying to take bias aside, and um, obviously for no reason at all do I have any bias in this conversation.
No.
But I haven't been convinced by a couple of those Ohio State wins the same way I've been convinced by certain Texas wins. I just
Mm.
haven't. The win over Penn State, not convincing. The win over Nebraska, not convincing. Obviously, they lost to Oregon. I am more confident in Texas as a team, as a
Mm.
unit, etc. Um,
As long as we can wake the fuck up before in the first quarter, then we'll be fine. We don't seem to know what a first quarter is at the moment.
we'd rather warm into a game than cool off out of a game, I guess,
True.
is the only way you can think of it, if you want to be positive anyway. Um, so yeah, you got Oregon, then Ohio State, then Texas, but I would generally agree with both of you that Texas 2, Ohio State 3 for me. And then in number 4, Penn State.
Throughout the season, I've never been comfortable with Penn State at 4. That's enough. I've got nothing against Penn State. I'm right here, right now. Nothing against Penn State. I just think, yeah, they lost to. Did they lose to Georgia or Ohio? Who was it they lost
They
to?
lost to Ohio.
Right. Yeah. Otherwise, they have got it's 8-1, isn't it? I mean,
9
but
and 1.
they're the 8 games that they've won. They haven't really played 9-1. They haven't really played any, with the exception of Ohio, who they lost to. They haven't had any sort of serious competition.
So they played West
So I
Virginia, Bowling Green, Kent
Bowling
State,
Green.
Bowling Green,
Exactly, Bowling
big
Green. Come
team,
on.
big team. And to be fair, they beat them 34-27. So it wasn't, again, it's not exactly a great win. They did beat Illinois, who are currently, I think, ranked 24th,
Ranks win.
and obviously beat USC. But again, USC have been on a downer this season, so that is probably less of a win there. Wisconsin, UCLA, Washington.
The Ohio State loss was a one-score loss as well.
Yeah,
No, they got blew out the water. Or even couples got that was a one-score loss. That again, I stand by with as far as Ohio State goes. I was not convinced with Ohio State by that win.
yeah. And then
Potentially
they
should
do.
not have won that one.
And then the last two games of Minnesota and Maryland, or Maryland, however you want to say it.
So,
But I think you could argue Indiana probably deserved to be. They haven't lost yet. Has
I
so
mean, Indiana are above Penn State in their own division or their own conference.
So why are they not above Penn State now then?
Exactly. They're
So you would
currently
probably say Indiana at 4 and Penn State at 5.
so who have Indiana played this year? Right, they've
Indiana
played.
Michigan,
What?
MI State,
Well,
Washington, Nebraska, Northwestern, Maryland, Charlotte, UCLA,
Western
Western
Illinois,
FIU, and then Purdue, and
and
MI State again.
this weekend though, they have Ohio State. I think if they
beat Ohio, then
yeah.
I mean, to be fair, if they beat Ohio, they could easily move to 3. Texas could move to 2 if they win, and then Ohio could drop down to 4.
I think Ohio State drop out the top 5 if they lose. If you lose 2, if you are a 2-loss team, especially if Indiana and Penn State both have less losses than you, you have to. And that again, taking bias out of it, you've got to be fair across the board here. No other 2-loss team would make it into the top 5.
And also, as well, if you think about how far Texas fell when they lost to Georgia. So theoretically, if you're going to lose to another top 5 team, you should drop just as far as the likes of Texas and Georgia did when they dropped, because they dropped like 6 or 7 places.
And Texas were number 1, number 2 at the time.
Number 1.
Number 1. And I know when Georgia lost, they dropped pretty fast as well the first time. And they were number 1.
Flip side of the coin. Yeah, if Indiana win and beat Ohio State, yeah. Flip side of the coin, if Indiana lose, and the
we don't want that negative energy.
The mighty Irish. No, we do. Because if Indiana lose and the mighty Irish beat the Army, which, let's be honest,
with how un-American they are, they probably will.
Yeah.
We would go to 10-1. Indiana would go to 10-1. They would drop. They would end up dropping below us.
Yeah.
So just that would pop us up another spot. And if so I'm all for rolling with Ohio State this weekend. I know you said the other week, Fletch, that I was starting to join the we don't like Ohio State bandwagon, and I was quite happy to hitch a lift on that bandwagon as far as I needed to go. But
that's a bandwagon
needs
that
must,
everyone's
man. Needs must.
Welcome on. Everybody's welcome on the anti-Ohio State bandwagon.
I'm going to get off this weekend just because I need them to win.
Right.
But I
say everybody's welcome. You hop. There's no hop off and hop on again though. Like there is no.
Oh, is it not? Is it not like a bus? Get on, get off.
No, you're either in or you're out. It's what was it? Oh, every especially northern kid had it when they were like when you were out playing out as a kid, you come back home and you're either in or you're out.
Yeah.
You're either in or you're out.
Stop opening and closing that door. Either stay in or stay out.
Exactly. Born in a barn. But let's just off that top 5, because you'd think based off as normal playoff brackets would probably end up going, they're your top 4 or 5 in the playoffs. That's not how it works. Similar to the NFL's playoffs, like the division winners go first. So before I kind of moved on to the fact that three of those teams are not actually in the top bracket of officially well, top of the bracket. They're in the top of the rankings, but not the bracket. Four out of five of the top teams are from the Big Ten. Only one is an SEC team. Do you think, and this is an honest question, that speaks more to the Big Ten or how hard the SEC is? The quality of the Big Ten or how hard the SEC is?
I think it says more about the quality of the Big Ten because, you know, even though, Miami were doing, they were whatever it was, 8-0 at one point or 7-0, and then they lost one game and they dropped quite a few spaces and they haven't come back up all the way up yet. But I mean, I know they're ACC, but you know, they've, it seems to be that one one result is makes a lot of difference in those. If Oregon were to rest, I know they'll get a bye, but if Oregon were to rest their guys, one loss isn't going to affect Oregon. They're still going to win the title,
Yeah.
because they've done enough. Whereas every other team has got to keep going all the way to the end. So
Um,
some of the losses have been to teams that you wouldn't expect them, though. I mean,
right.
Notre Dame are and not exempt from that. They lost to, a bunch of idiots. But so I don't know. I mean,
I think the hardest part about this is that because there's been so many conference changes this year that it's things are not settled. Obviously, Oregon weren't in where they are now before, and Texas obviously had moved, and all of these sort of changes. I think we're not. It's hard to make to gain an understanding as to whether
Yeah.
that's down to the SEC getting stronger or whether it's the Big Ten leveling the playing field a bit, so to speak. But I do think because naturally you would say, well, if say one of the teams that had moved over, they blew everyone out of the water. If Texas had gone 10-0 this season and destroyed Georgia and such alike, then you maybe say that it's more to do with the strength of the SEC. But games that have been lost have not been lost to teams that you would expect. It's not like a lot of the time it's not been that they've lost to. I mean, apart from obviously in Texas case, they lost to Georgia, but there's been a lot of games that have been lost, as you say, Nick, to nobodies, or not nobodies, but teams that you would expect to win.
yeah,
And I think that's where it's becomes even harder to judge, because it's not like you're saying that teams are beating up each other and losing, like they're losing to them, they're losing to them, they're losing to them.
I mean, fair point. I just think it's an interesting conversation to have because there's always been the argument of what's better, the Big Ten or the SEC. Um, I don't want to
It's
get.
always
I'm
should
not
be
going to get
SEC.
myself into the debate. I think it's a silly debate to have. It's like asking what's better, La Liga or Serie. Well, actually, that's probably a stupid question to put forward. But no, it. The question kind of leads to nowhere, and it's always going. The answer's always going to be based in the bias of who you are and who you support and all that sort of stuff. At the end of the day, um. So
AKA SEC is the better one, is what you're saying.
this year, the Big Ten feels particularly hard. Um. I'm not gonna lie. I'm struggling in the Big Ten this year, but then going on from there to go into the next five, you've got at number six Notre Dame, who's like I say only loss this year came to Northern Illinois. Do you think, Nick, that without that loss, because what are Northern Illinois now? 5-5, I believe in the map
the
because they played last night, didn't they?
They did play last
pass.
night. They are 6-5 now.
6-5. The 6-5
They
in the
were
map.
they were 6-4, but they lost to Miami last night, so they're now 6-5.
Miami, Ohio, not Florida. Miami, Ohio.
Miami, Ohio, who are 7-4.
We need to remember that one because there's two Miamis. Um,
Too many Miamis.
too many Miamis. Um, but no, does that note does that if without that loss, are you top five? Are you above Indiana?
Yes, because Indiana haven't really played anybody sort of really good, whereas Notre Dame have played quite a few teams who were top 25 when we played them.
Right.
You know, we played Louisville when they were top 25. And again, I've said this on the pod as well. You've got to remember Notre Dame are coming off another 3-game winning streak from last season. I think, it's something like 13-1 now as a run. So they've gone like 4 unbeaten last season and then picked up where they left off and kept going, with the exception of Northern Illinois. So yeah, I would say if Notre Dame were 10-0, not only would they be above Indiana, they'd have to be above Penn State as well. So that would put them at number 4.
Interesting. Not putting above Texas though.
No,
Oh,
I wouldn't put them above Texas. I don't think they would be good enough to be above Texas.
no. Fair. I've got another
Smart move.
question.
Smart move.
I've got another question for you. I might need to write it down because I'll probably forget, but it will need to be asked in a minute rather than right now, I think. Next up, you got Alabama in 7, above
They haven't been
Miami in 8.
they haven't been impressive all year though. I mean, they
Above
lost to
Miami in
they
8.
lost to Vanderbilt, but that was terrible for them. But they haven't been impressive all year. They've done what they needed to do, but they haven't actually. You know, you can tell they're on that like Nick Saban sort of lull, aren't they? They haven't sort of come out fight. Do you know what I mean? They haven't cut them out guns blazing, new era. Let's go. And, it's just a little bit of a, oh right, okay, well let's see how we go, and it just seems to be a bit. Let's go, let's go. So I guess their record says they should probably be there or thereabouts. They just haven't been impressive.
I think it's the teams that they've played. I mean, obviously they lost to Tennessee, which you could argue probably would be one of the ones that could potentially beat them. But I think generally, if you look at who they've played, but once you go past obviously the first 3 games, they've had Georgia, Vanderbilt, who at the time I think were on the edge of being one of the top 25 at the time, or were in the shout or something along, or was around it. South Carolina have been in the top 25. Tennessee obviously are in the top 25, and then Missouri, don't really talk about them, and then obviously LSU were in the top 25. So
Yeah.
Apart from, I mean, and then you've got Oklahoma, which is a tough game, and then Auburn, they should win. So I think they've had a tough run of fixtures, and I think that they've managed to get through that. A lot of those, obviously, with hemorrhaging against Vanderbilt, probably wasn't the best of games, and Tennessee, but I think I would personally say they're a little high. I wouldn't put them at 7, but I think they deserve to be in the top 12.
Above Miami though as well.
No.
No, I wouldn't put them above Miami.
Which goes to then Miami in 8. And as you just said, shouldn't be below Alabama. Where should Miami be if that's the case? Like then you're putting them up at least 1 into 7. Could Miami be higher up than that? Or would that be a fair place to put them in 7?
I think that's fair. To be honest, if you dropped Alabama below Georgia, I would say that I'm happy with that. So if you had Miami at 7, Ole Miss at 8, Georgia at 9, and Alabama at 10. That's how I
Yeah.
would have it because Ole Miss beat Georgia, so they deserve to be above them. You
Mhm.
know, my so I would drop Alabama to 10 and move everyone up one spot.
Yeah.
That's how I would do it.
I'd
Okay.
agree with that.
Okay. So as you just said there, you then got Ole Miss and Georgia in 9 and 10. Now, I wanted to. Something I've got to say is, I hate being right. I really do. It's such a pain in the ass being right so often, right? And I got caught out in this pain in the ass on Saturday. So I was having a discussion with someone who was telling me just how bad Georgia are while the Tennessee game was on. It started, and I said, "Listen, never count Georgia out, especially this season. They're a second half team. As long as Georgia are somewhat in it, even if it's a 2-3 score game, watch out for Georgia in the second half.
They're the Kansas City Chiefs.
Then they
Within a score or two, they're there or thereabouts.
you get to half time, it's a tie game. I got laughed at when I said, watch out for Georgia. They're a second half team. Don't count your chickens at half time against Georgia. They're a second half team. Then what happened? Blew away in the second half. I just hate being right all the time. It's such a pain having to be that person who has to remind people and be right about it because it's setting an expectation that I think I can't fulfill all the time. But with Georgia and Ole Miss, again, like you said, Ole Miss should be above Georgia. You said that. I will agree. Alabama should be below Georgia as well. Would that still, as a whole, is that top 10 okay? Maybe not the exact positionings, but are you happy with the 10 teams in the top 10?
I would say based upon their
Yes.
record, based upon the season, I would probably say so.
Um, Fair enough. I'm gonna need to get one more thing up actually because I will want to mention something about Alabama as well. Um, I think there they are. The With their losses, I know, okay, one of the losses came to Tennessee. That's fair. And if you're actually doing this fairly, Tennessee would be above Alabama, surely. The other loss came to Vanderbilt. Yes, they beat. Okay, the win against Georgia, and this is where you kind of come in with the whole. This is how Tetris works because they beat Tennessee. They lost to Tennessee, but they beat Georgia. Then Georgia beat Tennessee, and you've got like a vicious cycle and circle here of like the whole. You don't get to an even. There's the top. What was I going to say? Overall, other than that Georgia win, which again, fair enough, that Alabama team's just not. I feel like they're in there. I feel like they're in there because they were there at the start, and no one could quite justify dropping them so far down or keep dropping them down. You just can't justify riding on where they started. I think being the operative bit here.
I think the problem is that when you start looking at the teams that are just on the edge, I don't think that their schedules in terms of who they've beaten quite match up to like the likes of. I mean, like we mentioned earlier, Alabama have played a lot of teams that have been in and around the top 25, and bar Tennessee and Vanderbilt, they've won those games.
Yeah.
So I think for me, that's why they justify being in that top 10 position because the teams below them as well maybe haven't had as what you would class as a strong schedule
If
in terms of the other teams they played.
if you look at pre-season, though, if you look at the start of the season, I'm just looking at the rankings at the start of the season. Georgia were at 1, Ohio State were at 2, Oregon were at 3, Texas were at 4, Alabama were at 5, Ole Miss were at 6, Notre Dame were at 7, Penn State at 8, Some Michigan team were at 9, certainly not Central Michigan or Western Michigan, and some guys from Florida, Florida State Penitentiary, I think it is. They were 10. They play like that anyway. Um, and then Missouri were at 11. You know, the teams that were there or thereabout, with the exception of the last two, they're all there or thereabouts in the top 10 still. So, with the exception of Georgia and Alabama, who are significantly higher, or, you know, was significantly higher at the start of the season than they are, teams are pretty much about where they were predicted to be at the start of the season.
Yeah. And do you know what? Going back through again, I'm just looking through this again. Okay, the last 4 weeks, they beat three ranked opponents, including two top 15 opponents. Maybe I'm being a bit, maybe there's a little bit of hyperbole on my part. I like, look, they beat LSU convincingly, they beat Mercer convincingly. Okay, it's Mercer, but they beat Mercer convincingly, they beat Missouri convincingly,
Beat the Gamecocks as well, didn't they?
and they did. And well, sorry, they didn't beat all four of them, but like the loss to Tennessee was a one-score game, and that was a bad game. Well, I say it wasn't a bad game; it was a good defensive game. So to most people, that's a bad game. Um, it's maybe a little bit of hyperbole on my part, so potentially ignore what I've just said. I know someone's probably already sat there tweeting like, "How dare you say that about Alabama?" Um,
Mhm.
you can delete the tweet. I'm sorry. The maybe a little bit of hyperbole on my part. Last two, first team to miss out on the playoffs, ranked in the top 12, is Tennessee at 11.
Yeah.
Then
That could change though this
oh that
week.
those that bottom most of that bottom stuff will change
Is it
drastically.
is who is it Tennessee play this weekend? Is it Georgia?
No, Tennessee played Georgia at the weekend, just gone.
Of
Yeah,
course
Yeah,
they
played
did.
Georgia at the weekend.
because last week
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
whereas this week I'm going on about Ohio State beating Indiana. Last week I was like, go Georgia against Tennessee. So, yeah,
Oh, they've got
Who's
that's
Tennessee got this week?
they've got a tough matchup this weekend against UTEP. And so UTEP then Vandy the next two games. So
So
they're
they're essentially for me they're essentially relying on maybe someone like a Georgia or an Alabama to drop a win or to put up a loss, I suppose, is to.
I guess yeah, that a win against UTEP is not going to shift anything. I don't think a loss will, but a win
Mhm.
against UTEP, you've got to win that game if you are Tennessee. Like the only way that it could be a thing is if you beat them like 52-50, like by a lot, and you
Mhm.
beat up on them heavily, because then it's like, okay, pure sheer dominance. If you won two score game, that's not gonna work for you. That's just gonna be okay, yeah, fair enough.
I think the problem as well is the fact that Georgia have got to play UMass next, which realistically is a
Similar game to UTEP.
yeah, and then but the only difference is Georgia have got to play Georgia Tech, and Georgia Tech have been relatively good this year. You'd expect Georgia to win, but it will not be an easy game with it, and it being a rivalry game anyway. So
Yeah.
there's that added thing. And who have Alabama got? Did we say
Bama have Oklahoma at the weekend,
that's tough? I
and
know
then
that
Auburn.
Alabama. I know that Oklahoma are 5-5, but that's still a tough game, and Auburn's a tough game.
Well,
So I
Oklahoma,
think if you're Tennessee, you're hoping maybe someone like an Alabama will lose one of those two games if you can win out.
yeah. Um, well, as far as Oklahoma goes, yeah, they're 5-5, but they're 1-5 in the conference.
Yeah,
Um, it's, they've really struggled with the SEC this year. But their five losses, okay, their five losses though, so their five wins even: Temple, Houston, Tulane, Auburn, and Maine. The five losses: Tennessee, Texas, South Carolina, Ole Miss, Mizzou. The
What did I say at the start of the season? That Oklahoma would struggle in the SEC, and they have. That's exactly what they've done.
Well, look at the two teams that have come over to. It's like you look at the two teams that have come over to the Big Ten. One's thriving, one's struggling.
Hmm.
Oregon, loving life. Washington, bang average.
Yeah.
So it's a weird one though, because I don't. I may just by the looks of that again. Like I've not paid a lot of attention to Oklahoma this year. I just haven't. I don't think they're gonna like. I don't think
I,
they're gonna put
I
on
don't
much of a game this week.
I don't blame you for not watching much of Oklahoma. I wouldn't.
I think
They
the only
had
game
that.
of Oklahoma I've seen this year is the Texas game.
No, they had that. They had that Oklahoma versus Oklahoma State, where it went to two overtimes, and it was like 30,
That's
and it
true.
was just like touchdown after touchdown after literally up, down, up, down, up, down. It was gay because we everyone was watching their own thing, and I was like, guys, get on this game because it's just gay. It's all out attack. That was probably one of the best games I've actually watched this season.
Um,
So
Fair. But like if you look at the losses as well though. To Mizzou, a one score game, but to Ole Miss, two score game. South Carolina, that was a four-score game. To Texas, four-score game. Is that a four-score game or even more than that? I'm not doing. Yeah, that's
What
a
about
four-score game if you do three 2-point conversions on them. And then to Tennessee, two score. Like you're not they're not just losing, but they're losing by a good margin as well to decent teams. So
Mm.
I don't see them. I don't see them putting up a fight against Alabama this week. I don't necessarily think Alabama will like 4 or 5 score them, but
They
it'll be a
could do
2-3
that.
score game. So yeah, Alabama will win this weekend quite comfortably.
I think it's safe. It's unless something crazy was to happen, it's likely that Tennessee would miss out, and I think it would be fair for them to have missed out given the games they've lost.
Yeah. Um, the next team in though at 12 was Boise State, and I don't think any of us are going to argue with this one really.
No.
no.
They've got a decent running back. I've heard that he's quite good.
Yeah,
Next,
I think he's overrated. Do not clip that because that is not true. I do not think he's overrated. He's a
Clip it, clip
just in
it.
case someone decides to clip it.
um, you might have just become the least popular man on Twitter, and that's going at the moment. Um,
Remember Ricky's clip about not Alfie Haaland, Erling Haaland only scoring so many goals and that being an insult to the establishment. That's still going around Twitter 2 years later because he was stupid to say it. Oh, clip that, we'll have it.
Well,
like,
Gianti's not. He's no Barry Sanders, is he? Let's be honest.
I mean, I agree, but also that was on Sky Sports. This is on the AAW Network. Oh, chill. This is going nowhere. And to be quite honest, I think most people have already stopped listening. If we're quite honest as well. Next up though, making it in the cut is BYU. No, sorry, we'll go with the next team out. Sorry, that's SMU. Would you put SMU in above anybody else?
No.
I know you can't necessarily put them in above
No,
BYU
not
because of
really.
the way the seedings work.
I
Um,
mean, it's unfortunate because they only need a one game swing with Miami to actually jump in. But based on who Miami have got in their last two games, they're not going to get that game swing. So, you know,
And
it's
again,
it's unfortunate.
you look at the teams that they've played. They have literally played no one. The only team that they played that I would say of any value was BYU, and they lost to BYU. So
well, there we go. Um,
So then BYU should BYU not be above SMU to start with?
Well,
at 30.
BYU are the only team to beat SMU.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. But what BYU are below SMU in the rankings. So even though
Yes.
BYU, in theory, straight away there, BYU should be at 13. It doesn't affect their playoff spot. They're still in,
Yeah.
but there's one
I think
where
that's
one team who's beaten the other team are lower down.
I think that's just down to recency because obviously they lost to Kansas this week. I don't think it's necessarily
Yeah.
down. I think that the fact they're probably not there's not the consideration for that game of beating um,
Yeah.
SMU. So because I think that win was second week, so it's a long time ago. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
so yeah, I think that's more of a recency thing than anything else. But
And
yeah, I
obviously,
agree. They should be above SMU.
and there we go. Like, finally, is 14 BYU. Uh, so, but because of the way it's going to, because of the way they work it, and as the first four seeds go to the top four ranked division, conference champions, um, and then the first group of five team as well is automatically put into that. So the bracket goes as follows. In the quarterfinals already with a bye week, you've got Oregon, Texas, Miami, and Boise State. Then the brackets for the first round, which by the way is on, I did have it up there, the 20th and the 21st of December. Nice little pre-Christmas treat for you all. Is the first round of the first ever first round of the college football playoffs, the 12-team playoffs. The matchups we'll get based on this bracket include BYU at Ohio State. If you were to have to pick a team to win that one, why would it be BYU?
No,
Unfortunately, it would be.
aren't Ohio at BYU?
Yeah,
Ohio are at BYU.
No, BYU at Ohio. Because it's the lower
Right.
ranked at the higher ranked.
Right.
So
Okay.
Ohio State would be in the seeding. Like the different, obviously the rankings and then the seedings are slightly different, but
So I read the box wrong. That's all. I
um
was reading top to top at bottom. That's what I was reading. Sorry.
so BYU at Ohio State. Um Obviously,
so yeah,
obviously we can comfortably say BYU were through to play Boise State there. No more needs to be mentioned on that one. Next up would be the Georgia at Penn State.
Georgia at Penn State.
At Penn State.
That could be a difficult
That
game, you know.
game. That game's already happened, hasn't it? That was early, but it was at Georgia. Am I right? Wasn't that
Right,
like
no.
some weeks ago? Penn State versus Georgia, or
No,
was
I've
it
got the Penn
against
State.
Ohio?
I've got the Penn State schedule here, and there's no Georgia.
Right.
Um,
Okay.
I mean, you might be
I'm
thinking of Bowling Green.
no. Who am I thinking of? I'm looking now. Ohio State. That's who I'm thinking. What it was 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Ohio State. It was one or the other. Sorry, my fault.
Oh, I've got top quality coverage here on College Football UK. Top quality coverage. Um, that'll be a fun game though. And
Yeah,
then next up in that you would get Ole Miss at Indiana.
me personally, I would say that I'd be leaning towards Ole Miss for that one.
I would too.
And then Alabama at Notre Dame.
I think the fact that it's at Notre Dame for me would be maybe where it would swing towards them anyway.
But
They've been the better team this year, I would say.
let me I'm not actually 100% sure where it is. It's Utah. Utah, yeah, it's Utah. Um so BYU is in Utah. Um but that would have Alabama at Notre Dame. So and Notre Dame's in Illinois. Top of my head. That's right. The
India,
state.
Indiana.
Indiana? Okay. Um, yeah, my geography is not great. The Georgia
You
at Penn
you made me
State.
question my own then, mind you. I was like, I'm sure that's Indiana. I'm sure it's in Indiana. No, don't say it. Don't say it. If he's right and you're wrong, you made me question myself then. No, it's in Indiana.
It is, yeah, it is just. I couldn't remember which way around the states were. Um, and Ole Miss at Indiana with Georgia at Penn State. That's a lot of that's three teams from the south traveling up north to play outside in December.
What are they going to do? Get a coupon for traveling together?
Do you know what? Georgia and Alabama probably could. Georgia and Alabama, because they're both going to Indiana, aren't they? Apparently. So, um, but that's three southeastern teams traveling up north to the upper Midwest to play in the middle of December. That could have an effect, I think, on because you're not going to get that very often.
No, true.
You're not because all of those are on campus games as well. They're not just going to be treated like any random bowl game. They're on campus games.
Yeah,
So
no, the weather could play a factor.
because we see it in the NFL when teams go to Green Bay at the end of
They
December.
usually like they usually like to put us in Green Bay in December.
So they've done it to us a few times, but you would think that they'd be used to it in Detroit, but they play in a dome, so
Yeah,
it's
it's
not as
nice and
playing
cozy
goes.
in it's nice and cozy in Michigan, isn't it? In their little dome.
Exactly. So
Uh,
well, what was
To
it?
be to be honest, whether argument's sake, whether it's Alabama or Notre Dame, it doesn't really matter who. For argument's sake, you know, I can't see going to Oregon's going to be fun in the new year either.
No, it's not.
No.
That's going to be wet and windy at least.
So if anything,
Freezing.
you want to come play Texas, really. Nice little warm weather.
Or Miami, or Miami.
Or Miami, yeah. As long as
Um,
it's not stormy.
so exactly. Well, you'd be looking forward to playing a team, but they're going to be bowl games, so or consider bowl games, so they'll be on neutral sites
Mm.
more than likely. So you're not necessarily that, and that's one thing I feel bad for as far as Boise State, Oregon, Miami, and Texas go, especially Boise State, because they're going to miss out on the potential of a lot of local income by missing out on having a playoff game in the town.
Damn them for being so good.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it is in a way. It does feel a bit like, well, you shouldn't be
Yeah,
so good then.
it's almost like just throw one of those games as long as you don't drop out, sort of things.
And but to be fair, Ohio State, Penn State, and Indiana, they were better if you go off the record, well, off the rankings. They're better. Or if you look at Boise State, I mean, they're 12th in the standing. So Tennessee, Georgia, Ole Miss, Miami, Alabama, Notre Dame, like Boise State are just like they're kind of I don't know. I would they're not even that good and that much better in terms of the rankings,
Mm.
and they're still being punished for it. So, but that's the college football playoff rankings as it stands this week. Yesterday was they were released. Yesterday, um, those will change over the next 2 weeks because the really cool thing about this is we have 2 weekends. Well, I say cool, it's really quite sad. There are 2 weekends of college football left, regular season. Two. And you
That's
think, Nick, go all the way back to meeting up at Manchester Airport at 6 in the morning. Two
Well,
regular season games left now.
you know what happened? We've had this discussion. You know what it means when the college football season finishes, though.
NFL season starts picking up. Oh yeah,
draft.
Draft season starts.
draft season. Not quite, because bowl season. Well, the week after we've got championship weekend, and then we've got bowl season starts. Um, Obviously this weekend feels to me like a relatively disappointing weekend, mostly because we know that the weekend after
Rival weekend.
rivalry weekend, last game of the regular season, this is where the big games tend to happen. This is the one because championships on the line, seedings on the line, also but also major rivalries on the line, which is going to make next week's episode very fun to look forward to. But let's have a look towards the weekend coming up. Are there any games taking your fancy? Couple
Me and
of
Sam, me and Sam were having a chat before we started. When we were waiting for you to make your coffee. Obviously Indiana at Ohio State. That's a big one.
Yeah,
as she said.
Ole Miss play Florida. That's or all right. Florida aren't ranked, but it could have could have quite an interesting game. Army are unbeaten. They're going to Notre Dame. That should be interesting. BYU are at Arizona State. That's another two ranked team fixture. So again, there are some games that could be interesting, but there are games that have the potential to affect the playoff and everything and
Yeah,
standings. So it's not like we're nearing the end of the season and some of these are dead rubbers. Yeah, some are, but
yeah,
there are still a lot to play for. I don't think Alabama are going to walk it against Oklahoma. I think they're going to have to turn up and actually put the hard yards in. So
I think there are probably a couple of other games that I think to mention, and this is more, and obviously we've talked a lot about, teams from the Big Ten, the Big 12, and SEC and all of that. But there are some, I suppose, for teams that aren't in that, and they're in the group of five where these games could be really interesting. So you've got Sam Houston against Jacksonville State, with Sam Houston 8-2, Jacksonville State 7-3. So again, implications there with that game. And then you've got, what was the other one? Western Kentucky against Liberty, 7-3 against 7-2. You've got the huge game of Charleston Southern on 1-10 versus Florida State on 1-9. And obviously mentioned BYU Arizona State. There's one
Wisconsin,
other game.
Nebraska.
yeah.
Pittsburgh Louisville could be an interesting game. 7-3, 6-4. I think there was one other I saw
Wash,
that I thought probably.
Washington State versus Oregon State.
The Cougars versus the Beavs.
Mhm.
You love to see it. Can can I just bring up a couple of games here because there's a couple of games here that I've had to take a couple of glances at. South Carolina at Wofford.
Where?
Wofford.
At
Watford.
Watford.
Wofford.
They're playing
Wofford.
Watford.
They're playing
Um,
Watford. Elton John's going.
have you seen who Clemson are playing? The
There was,
Citadel.
the Citadel, yeah.
The
The
Citadel.
Citadel. The Citadel Bulldogs. The couple of very interesting teams. I believe these are FCS teams. Now, why are Clemson trying to beat up on FCS teams at the end of the season? Why? Why is South Carolina playing playing Wofford at the end of the season? These are first two games of the season type games at best. Why? It feels weird. It feels like it shouldn't be happening.
They're just being rude and beating up on little teams, aren't they?
Exactly. And Clemson have got, let's have a look. Who were Clemson's last game? That's South Carolina. So before South Carolina and Clemson play each other, they're both playing absolute nobodies. With all respect to the Citadel Bulldogs and Wofford Terriers.
Oh, big! I've found the big game for this week. Yale versus Harvard.
Ooh, that's actually a good
Mm.
one.
That's Ivy League versus Ivy League. That's a big game. In all fairness, in the American
Here's your
university world, that
derby.
probably
Here's
is
your derby.
huge. Yeah.
Go on. USC versus UCLA. There's a bit of a derby.
Obviously, you've got Mizzou versus Mississippi State.
Oh, I found the
No,
other
sorry,
game
no.
I was thinking of was the other
Um,
game I was thinking of was UConn Syracuse. So again, both teams 7-3. That was the other game that I thought might be interesting.
I'm interested to a certain extent with the Buffs versus Jayhawks, like with Colorado, Kansas, because I want to see. I have I am still not Deion Sanders' biggest fan. Me and Deion Sanders disagree on various different things in life, but I'm a believer in what he's done at Colorado now. I'm a believer in it, and I'm all for it. I think what he's done has been great at Colorado. And I kind of want to see if they really can push the boat and make the cut. Yes, they've got Kansas unranked and now Oklahoma State who've been. I think we all thought Ollie Gordon was going to be the one to light up the year as a running back this year, and he just hasn't. But I would be interested to see if they can convincingly beat Kansas and Oklahoma State, if they can really push for that top 12 and potentially make it in.
I don't think they will personally, but they. I think it just the problem that I have with it is I don't think they're better than in terms of their output as the other teams above them. They're already in the 12, so that'd be. I mean, they've already. I think they've already exceeded a lot of expectations, so they were already doing a lot better than they are. But
Yeah.
I don't know. I think that if is this for me, I suppose the big thing for me is this just a one season thing? You know, because the likelihood is that like the Shadur Sanders and Travis Hunter are going to go in the next draft. And I'm
Yeah.
not saying that that's all their team is, but
Well,
you know, is Dion going to stay? I can't see him staying at
No,
Colorado.
I think once Shador and Travis Hunter have gone in the draft, I think he'll up and leave anyway.
Mm,
this is the question. It's sustainable as well though if Dion stays to an
yeah,
extent. I don't think that long term it's sustainable for to do the whole transfer portal thing, the whole 20 players leave, you bring 20 players in via the transfer portal. That's not sustainable long term, but Dion has that kind of pull. If Dion leaves, I don't think they've been recruiting that well. We might see in a couple of weeks, whatever happens, happens. But I don't think many people even. I don't think many people want to go to. You don't want to go to Colorado if Dion's not there, and if you don't know if Dion Sanders is going to be there or not next year, why would you commit to Colorado?
mm.
So I don't know. I think it's only sustainable if you keep who you've got. If Dion stays, if all pieces remain in place.
Is Dion's younger son still there? Will he still be there? He's not drafting this year, is he? Or even if he's there. Actually, I was sure that there was a younger
There is another
Sanders.
There
Sander.
is, There is. He's not. He's not in college yet. I think he's in his last
Right.
year of high
Yeah.
school.
But I'm
No,
assuming that I thought he was already at college.
there is another Sanders in playing for Colorado.
Right. Oh
He's
no,
just not.
sorry. I'm thinking. Sorry, I'm thinking of Travis Hunter's younger brother. Sorry, no. Travis Hunter's younger brother hasn't gone into college yet. He's in his last year of high school. Sorry, that's
Right.
my fault. My fault.
But Shador Sanders' younger brother, is it his name Shiloh or Silo or something like that? I don't know why I've got that stuck in my head. Yeah, Shiloh.
Shiloh
He is
Sanders, yeah.
there. Yeah. Shiloh Dion Sanders. He's a safety. So yeah. I think so he's still so that could be the only thing that maybe would keep. But then he's
Keep him there.
24, so maybe he'll go in the draft as well.
He's
Didn't realize he was 24.
well, he's on his sixth. He's just finished his sixth year of eligibility.
Yeah, so he's likely gonna go, isn't he?
So
Realistically, as well.
this is going to be a fun year as well for the draft. Actually, when I think about it, because a lot of players who had COVID extend their college stay will no longer have eligibility this year. As well, there's going to be
Yeah,
a lot more players
Yeah.
who were extended through COVID who won't get that opportunity this year. So that's going to be fun. But yeah, he's in his sixth year of eligibility. He's not playing again. Um, he's
No.
played he's played 3 games, started the three, made 14 tackles, 4 assists.
Is he gonna get drafted? Mhm.
UDFA at best,
Yeah,
I think personally.
yeah.
Um,
He sounds practice teamy, doesn't he?
yeah, he's.
Or XFL or whatever
I
the
was
other.
gonna say he sounds like he'll be playing for the San Antonio Brahmas in April, potentially, or
Yeah,
what is it? Are they the Barcelona Sea Dragon, whatever they're called? The Barcelona
I
Dragons
may
or
have.
whatever.
I may have found the biggest game of the week that we have not yet discussed.
is it Old Dominion?
It is the Marshall Thundering Herd at Old Dominion.
I think you're chussing a bit of crap
It's
because
it's 12:30 on Saturday night, so I'm gonna start. I'm not going to be able to watch the Old Dominion game because I'll be heavily involved in watching Notre Dame game. But I will be keeping an eye on that game. I will be keeping an eye on my OD boys.
so we're just
So
ignoring Kennesaw State again for
Maybe,
another week.
maybe don't
obviously.
call them your OD boys. That's not a good term.
uh, my dominating boys.
Who are Kennesaw State playing this week? I thought they were on a
Don't know.
bye.
We only pay
FIU,
attention to the big times,
FIU,
big teams.
FIU.
Oh, that very well known team.
Do you mean yeah? Well, yeah, they are this year because they're now sponsored by Pitbull. So and they have the Vice City uniforms. So that's all they're known for this year. Um, I am genuinely interested in the Michigan game because it's our only chance to get bowl eligible. We're playing Northwestern, and I'm not confident on that. Michigan State need to win out to get bowl eligible. UTSA, if they win, they are bowl eligible. And other teams, Virginia play SMU. They could be bowl eligible if they win. Who else? Boston College.
They've got a relatively tough game this week, haven't they?
Who would have thought, by the way, that 1-10 Charleston Southern playing Florida State at 1-9, and you would have thought. Don't think anyone thought that those games were going to come through that way. That game was going to be as close to in the records as anyone thought. What about who else can be
I was going
bowl
to say,
eligible?
I bet Kennesaw State would much rather be playing Florida State right now than Florida International.
Correct. Um,
Northern,
correct.
it's NC that Boston are playing this week, so that could be interesting as a game.
Yeah. UL Monroe could also get bowl eligible. South Alabama.
Could the Raging Cajuns, can they get bowl eligible?
Haven't they already won 6 games or more?
Yeah, they are.
So they're already
I,
bowl
I
eligible.
just wanted you to make sure that you mentioned them. That was all.
Uh,
They've got a very very difficult game this week.
both Wisconsin and Nebraska, who play each other, whichever team wins gets a bowl game. Who else have we got? West Virginia, Coastal Carolina, North Texas, uh, Wofford. No, wait, Wofford because they'll be an FCS team, so I don't think they'll get a bowl. Arkansas. What else have we got? Oklahoma. If they do win, they get a bowl game. We're on bowl watch this weekend, basically, I think, for the most part. Cincinnati, USC,
Cali,
Fresno State,
Cali.
Cali. Yeah. Uh, so they're the teams I've got looking for a bowl game this weekend who could get bowl eligible this weekend.
Watford.
Um, and tonight, Eastern Michigan, who play Buffalo, they could become bowl eligible. Yeah, that's it. That's it. I believe. So,
So there's still a fair few teams that still could get bowl eligibility.
and but that's one of the kind of cool things, I guess, about college is there's so many teams with still something that they can play for.
And
Um,
there's so many bowl games available out there.
so just so many bowl games. Which I'm gonna have to find a list of all the bowl games, and we need to do like a power ranking of like a top 10 power. We need to do our like top 10 or top 12 bowl names from this year. Something like that has to happen.
I'm going to look this up now. I'm going to find a list. NCAA football bowl games. List of college bowl games. There we go. We have a full list. College football playoff games. So you've got the big ones. Then other current Division One FBS bowl games.
I mean, you got the Cheez-It Citrus Bowl, which I don't know how them two come together. If you have it like Cheez-Its and citrus, I wouldn't put together. Also, you've got the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl, the Verbo Fiesta Bowl.
I sent you a picture of all the trophies at the Hall of Fame, didn't I, earlier this year?
Yeah. You did. You did.
You know, Orange Bowl, Peach Bowl, Fiesta Bowl, and the Rose Bowl. They're the big four. They're the big four.
Well, you've got the LA Bowl hosted by Gronk.
Yeah, the Art of Sport LA Bowl. I literally had that one in front of me. The Bad Boy Mowers Pinstripe Bowl. That's a thing. Bad Boy Mowers. Boca Raton, Cheese It. What else have we got? Yeah, they're all the playoff ones. Direct TV Holiday Bowl. Duke's Mayo Bowl.
Scooters Coffee Frisco Bowl.
There's the famous Idaho Potato Bowl. I feel like, do you know what? I want to know how cheap it is to sponsor one of these. I might give it a go. Let's see if we get an AAW Network Bowl.
The AAW Network Rate Bowl.
What bowl?
Rate Bowl.
I thought he said something else then.
I had to double check.
I was like, we don't want to sponsor that bowl.
No, we don't.
You've got the Birmingham Bowl. AAW Network Birmingham Bowl.
The Game Above Sports Bowl, which will be at Ford Field on Boxing Day. We do have, like, our percentage of listeners, by the way, really, really good in the States. So I know they don't really do it. Boxing Day is the day after Christmas, by the way, for those of you who weren't aware. So I know they don't really do Boxing Day in the States. Um, what else? We've got the
What about
Myrtle
the
Beach.
the trans perfect Music City Bowl?
Do you know, you got
Yes.
all the
This,
Radiant Technologies Independence Bowl.
yeah. The best one is the Tony the Tiger Sun Bowl, though.
I like the Pop Tarts Bowl. I'm a simple
Yeah,
guy.
I
I
do like
like
the
a good
pop.
Pop Tart. The Rate Bowl. Just Rate Bowl.
I mean, the Rose Bowl is just the Yorkshire Derby, isn't it?
I was gonna say
Isn't
that I'm
it?
gonna say the Rate Bowl is sponsored by Yorkshire. So Rate Bowl.
The Rate Bowl.
So Rate Bowl. Scoot. Oh yeah, so you said Scooter's Coffee Frisco Bowl.
Tax Tax Slayer Gator Bowl.
Snoop Dogg Arizona Bowl, presented by Gin and Juice. Uh, what else have
The
we got?
Duke's Mayo Bowl.
Yeah, yeah. Wasabi Fenway Bowl. I like that
Re-
one.
The Reese's Senior Bowl.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Reese's have had that one for a while. Um, but yeah, there we go. I think that's the list of them all. Well,
Mhm.
not all of them, but the famous Toastery Bowl.
There's a lot of bowls.
That's a
A lot of
lot
them.
of bowls.
Oh, you can download them on a PDF as well with all the dates of when they are. Right, I'm putting this in the group. So for anyone who's part of the Discord, check the group and you can see all the list of the bowls and the
Link in
schedule.
the description.
Yeah,
And
there you
that,
go.
Sam, is a perfect segue on where we can close it off today. Because this could get dangerous if we're just going to go and start on a bowl spiral. Um,
Yeah.
this week, if you want to join our Discord, by the way, when you join our Discord, what we want is we want your favorite bowl of all time. What's the favorite named bowl of all time? If you do have one, I'd be love to hear it because, as you can tell, our British minds absolutely loving him at the moment.
And I
So,
beef a punch bowl.
oh,
Oh, that, the big fish bowls. The amount of alcohol in that oh, you'll be toasted.
I
Again, for Americans, that's like a pretty big bowl of just pure alcohol and a bit
if
of fruit.
if you are in the States and you've had these bowl games for years, tell us your favorite one. And there's one for you off you there, Nick. If you are from the UK and you haven't seen all these bowls in history and don't have a favorite one yet, tell us if you could name a bowl after any British company, right? Anything over here, what would you name it after? I think I'm gonna have a think about it tonight. And I'll think about it until the weekend and I'll drop it in on Saturday. Um, what I would do. So something for everybody there. And yeah, with that man, go check the links in the bio, and I will see you next week, gents.
Yeah.
Yeah. See